in the stillness of breath, hides the storm of power. At first glance, the world of martial arts may seem full of noise, punches, kiais, flying kicks. But beneath the surface, in the silence between movements, there lives something else. Something deeper. Something slower. Something eternal. From the ancient streets of Naha to the polished floors of Tokyo, from Okinawan masters to modern champions, one style carries within it both steel and silk. Goju-Ryu, the hard, soft style. It does not shout to be heard. It does not chase fame. It simply breathes. It coils like a spring and strikes like a storm. It demands discipline but gives balance. And it teaches us this: that strength without control is chaos. That control without spirit is emptiness. This is the way of Goju-Ryu, the style of iron and breath. Centuries ago, the island of Okinawa stood at the crossroads of civilizations. Neither fully Chinese nor fully Japanese, Okinawa became a sponge, soaking in influences from Buddhist monks, Chinese sailors, Japanese samurai, and native farmers. When weapons were banned, the body became the weapon. And in quiet courtyards, men trained at night, hiding their movements in the rhythm of dance, concealing strikes within the breath. The result? The foundations of what we now call karate. One of the most influential styles to emerge was Naha, rooted in powerful stances, heavy breathing, and internal energy. Its greatest champion was Kanryo Higaona, a man whose journey to China in the late 1800s would reshape Okinawan martial arts forever. In Fujo, Higaona trained in southern Chinese styles, absorbing not only techniques, but a whole new way of moving energy through the body. When he returned to Okinawa, he brought back something that looked like fighting, but felt like meditation. His most gifted student? A boy from a wealthy family who chose the path of sweat and silence over comfort. His name was Chojun Miyagi. Born in 1888, Chojun Miyagi didn't have to train, but he had to understand. At age 14, he began his study under Higaona. The training was brutal. Hours of horse stance, lifting stone jars until fingers bled, striking makiwara until knuckles swelled. But more than anything, it was breath. Training didn't begin with punches. It began with silence. And through that silence, Miyagi began to hear the voice of martial philosophy. After Higaona's death, Miyagi took a pilgrimage to China, not out of obligation, but out of need. He needed to see what his teacher had seen, to touch the temples, breathe the air, and feel the pulse of the source. There, he studied Taoist breathing, Qigong, internal arts. He returned not with a new fighting system, but with a new balance, a way to blend strength and softness, structure and spontaneity, a style not based on domination, but on harmony. He needed to give it a name. In 1930, one of Miyagi's top students, Jinan Shinzato, was asked a simple question at a Japanese demonstration. "What is your style called?" Shinzato didn't have an answer. The techniques had a lineage. The training had a system. But there was no name, only tradition. Embarrassed, he told Miyagi what had happened. And Miyagi, reflective and precise, turned to the Bubishi, the ancient Chinese text often called the Bible of Karate. One phrase struck him: Ho-Go-Ju-Donto, the way of inhaling and exhaling, hard and soft. That was it. That was the essence. And so he called his system Goju-Ryu, the hard, soft school. But this was more than branding. It was a philosophy in kanji. Every Goju-Ryu Kata would now carry that balance. Every technique, a conversation between tension and release. Goju was not about winning the fight. It was about knowing when to fight and when to let go. Among all katas in Goju-Ryu, one stands above the rest. Not because it looks beautiful, not because it wins trophies, but because it transforms the soul. That kata is Sanchin. The three battles: the battle of body, the battle of mind, the battle of breath. In Sanchin, every muscle is activated, every breath is audible. The practitioner becomes like a coiled spring, full of energy, yet unmoving. And then comes Ibuki, the forceful, focused breath, a sound that cuts through the silence. Sanchin is Goju-Ryu in its purest form, a furnace that burns away distraction, weakness, and ego. You can't fake Sanchin. You can only become it. Miyagi taught that without mastering Sanchin, all other techniques are empty. Because in Goju-Ryu, the breath comes first. The technique follows the spirit. As karate moved to the mainland, it needed to adapt. Japan demanded structure, ranks, and systems. Enter Gogen Yamaguchi, one of Miyagi's most charismatic and controversial students. With fiery spirit and a lion's mane of hair, Yamaguchi took Goju-Ryu in a bold direction. He introduced belts, refined uniforms, integrated Japanese terminology. He built dojos in Tokyo and eventually around the world. He called it Goju-Kai, the school of hard and soft. It retained the essence of Miyagi's teachings, but with a more external focus: sparring, competition, athletic development. Meanwhile, in Okinawa, students like Eiichi Miyazato, Meitoku Yagi, and later Morio Higaona remained loyal to the core, preserving the original breath-based internal art. Thus, the styles split, not in heart, but in emphasis. Goju-Kai, sharp, structured, expanding. Goju-Ryu, Okinawan, deep, grounded, unshaken. Both hold truth, two rivers from the same mountain. Goju-Ryu isn't just for the dojo, it's a life lens. The idea of hard and soft plays out in everything: in relationships, in conflict, in aging, in grief. In combat, Goju-Ryu doesn't rush. It waits, it absorbs, feels, breathes. Then, in a single instant, it moves. The blocks are redirections. The punches are rooted in the hips, driven by breath. But even more than the fight, Goju-Ryu trains you to recognize your own storms. It teaches you to stand tall and to bow low. It is not for everyone, but for those who stay, it becomes a way of walking in stillness, in strength, in self. Goju-Ryu now lives on 6 continents, in Olympic dojos and dirt floor gyms, in Okinawan temples and YouTube tutorials, but wherever it is practiced, its breath is the same. And among those who preserved it for future generations, few shine brighter than Morio Higaona Sensei, a man who dedicated his life to the art, who carried the original flame of Okinawan Goju-Ryu into the 21st century, who showed the world that gentleness and power can coexist. Through him, and through those like him, we still feel the pulse of Chojun Miyagi, not in punches, in presence. If you've ever seen karate in movies, loud punches, high kicks, fast-paced sparring, chances are it wasn't Goju-Ryu. Goju-Ryu is different. It moves differently. It feels different. While many styles of karate emphasize speed, point scoring, and external form, Goju-Ryu turns inward. It begins with the breath. It builds from the core. It roots itself in the ground like an old tree, where Shotokan explodes in straight lines. Goju-Ryu coils in circles, where styles like Wado-Ryu avoid contact. Goju-Ryu embraces it. It trains for close range, for grip, control, body-to-body confrontation. Goju-Ryu is not about kicking from a distance. It's about standing your ground, calmly, solidly, and responding with force only when needed. You won't see spinning kicks or flying techniques, but you will see iron-like stances, explosive short-range punches, crushing locks. controlled breathing that fuels every movement. And from that quiet fire, something else was born. In the 1950s, a young man named Masutatsu Oyama began his journey in martial arts. He trained briefly in Shotokan, but it was in Goju-Ryu that he found his foundation. But Oyama dreamed of something more external, a style of full-contact, bare-knuckle combat, a style that would test strength in real battle. And so, from the iron root of Goju-Ryu, he built Kyokushin, the ultimate truth. The circular movements, the body conditioning, the breathing, they all came from Goju. He simply stripped away the rest and forged it into something new, harder, louder, more brutal. But at the core of Kyokushin lies a Goju-Ryu heart. The soft is gone. The hard remains. Without Goju-Ryu, there is no Kyokushin. And when you see a Kyokushin fighter absorb a body blow and strike back with stoic control, you're watching Miyagi's legacy, carried forward in a different form. The style of iron, still breathing. Goju-Ryu is not just a style. It is a rhythm, a breath, a way of seeing the world. It teaches you to be strong, without losing softness, to stand firm, without becoming rigid, to fight only when there is no other choice, and when the fight is over, to breathe again. This is a legacy that doesn't shout. It whispers patiently, from teacher to student, from one breath to the next. Today, in a world that moves faster than ever, Goju-Ryu offers something rare: stillness, discipline, purpose. But styles like this, quiet, traditional, rooted in history, are at risk of being lost to time. The stories of Miyagi, of Yamaguchi and Higaona sensei are not just martial stories, they are human stories, and they deserve to be remembered. That's where you come in. If this moved you, even for a moment, consider joining our mission. Your support helps us create more films, preserve more stories, and reach new generations. Exclusive content, behind-the-scenes footage, early access to new episodes. But more than anything, you become part of a movement to protect what matters. Join us at Patreon, because this isn't just a story about karate. It's a story about who we choose to become, in stillness, in struggle, and in breath.